Hey everyone, today I have a really special and somewhat spooky stories from different people that I found on Reddit. Some of them might not be safe for work, so viewer discretion is advised. So, a little backstory. This isn't directly my story, instead, my professor's. I took a specialized class in crimes while in my junior year of college. One reason was because I had to have an elective, the other was because I was genuinely curious about the psychology behind these crimes. My professor was in her mid 40s and had worked with convicted offenders for years leading up to her becoming a professor. She never delved into what exactly her job was, but we all knew she worked closely with them on the conviction or rehabilitation side. I'll never forget the day she told us this story. It was a really cold morning in late October. Her class was by 9 a.m. that Tuesday, and a class of maybe 15. We had got done going over a chapter we were on, leaving us with about an hour left in class. The chapter we were on was about the psychology of offenders when and after they offend. That's really important. Instead of releasing us early, my professor tells us that she has a story for us. Naturally, our ears perk up. She starts by telling us that years ago, her and her partner went to a group meeting of offenders for their rehabilitation and probation requirements. They weren't there to do anything, just sit, listen, and take notes. A while into their meeting, the organizer asked the men in the group, primarily made of peeping toms and just perps, how their lives were going. A lot of the men said that therapy was truly helping. They got a new job, moved, etc. Then came one man. Let's call him Jay for simplicity. Jay started describing that he had moved into a new apartment with a pool. It had a great kitchen, but there was a girl he was unsure about. The organizer questioned him about what he meant. Jay responded that he didn't know if it was okay to date. Of course, the other men in the group said, of course, and what he needs to explain is his situation. Jay relaxed a bit, the sentiments making him feel better. He then began describing this newfound crush, blonde hair, big green eyes, loves to sing. But that she was incredibly touchy and that her mother, who still lived with her, was very controlling of her. Jay said he didn't know how to handle her forwardness and that she was a little younger. Naturally, the organizer told him that it's okay to date and asked how old she was. That's when he said she was now 9 years old. My professor said she had never seen other offenders get so close to trying to kill another person in her life. Her partner immediately removed him from the group and get into contact with his probation officer. She said that Jay acted like he didn't know what the big deal was and that it was just a crush. Completely oblivious to the severity of what he just said, scoffing at the partner when he ridiculed him. This man was rejected, and when you're rejected, you cannot leave certain places, like an apartment with a pool. She never found out how he pulled it off. We all sat there stunned. One girl silently cried, as did I. The men visibly got angry at the story she just told us. She then told us he's walking around free. So Jay, for your own sake, I hope to God that I never see you. Let's never meet. I was around 8 years old and I was playing cricket in my street with kids of my age. It's a very common thing in India for kids to play in the middle of the street. It was my turn to bat and the batman's wicket was in such a way where it faced directly to an entrance of a home in cross-section of 3 streets and this home was filled with Middle Eastern people who seemed to be Iranians. While I took the bat and went on to play, I missed the first ball, and then while waiting for the next ball, I heard some huge rock falling right next to me. I turned back thinking it could be the other kids just pulling my leg, but then I see another huge boulder falling towards me, and this is when I freaked out and started running, followed by the other kids. Whilst running, we see some other Middle Eastern group of men approaching the home, and one of them got down their bike and held some cylindrical thing in his mouth and pulled it out. It was a dagger. The men inside the home resumed with their throwing at these men, while these men were trying to walk inside the home and having some people give them cover by throwing rocks at people inside the home. The neighbors around also start shouting at the people, asking, "Why are you guys doing this?" And the owner of the home living in the next house calls the cops, and they arrive within some time and held some dudes who they could. Meanwhile, my parents put me in my home and locked. All I remember is that the cops came and assured the neighbors for safety. However, till date, we don't know why they fought that way, and neither the cops revealed the reason why. But the guy with the dagger, let's not meet ever again. 23 female, if that matters. I'm writing this on a separate account from my main. It's very unnerving, so I live in a rental house with two of my friends. It's in sort of a college part of town, but where we live, one side of us is all people around our age, and on the other side it's much older crowd. Starting about 2 weeks ago, I started getting cards in the mail from my dad, most of which are accompanied by roses. The cards are pretty vague, saying things like "miss you" or "why don't you call anymore," and probably the weirdest was "don't you love me anymore." The flowers are always plastic. So far, all of the letters have been handwritten or were written in Sharpie marker on a Hallmark card. 2 days ago, I actually received a pack of guitar picks with a gift card to a local guitar shop. The reason I knew it came from the sender was the plastic flower. The creepy part about this is that my dad is not my birth father. I was adopted at 13 by my mom's husband, who has been around since I was 3. My birth father was an evil man that committed when I was only a few months old. All of the cards are signed with his name. Someone has apparently gone through the trouble of finding this information out and is sending me letters for whatever God knows reason. I can't possibly know what the purpose is. Is this a threat, a means of attention, just some sick individual playing sick individual games? Super creepy and unnerving. I woke up in the middle of the night remembering this and need to get it off my chest. When I was about 16, my dad, brothers and I lived in an old rundown house in the middle of nowhere. It was a private rental. My brother would do work for the landlord to pay our rent. Our landlord never came off as particularly creepy, but that could be because I rarely went outside when he came over to talk to my dad, and he wouldn't dare do anything in front of my dad. I was home alone one day. My dad and brothers went out somewhere I don't remember. I had my dog in a yard outside, but that was it. I was in my room doing whatever I was doing, probably playing The Sims 2. We lived in the middle of nowhere, and there was a long driveway which the window of my bedroom directly faced. I could see or hear anyone driving up the driveway. I saw a car, not my dad's, and immediately freaked out. I ran and shut all the blinds in the house. turned off all lights and checked the doors were locked. It was our landlord. He lived next door, about 2 miles from our house, and yes, that was the closest house. This wasn't the first time he'd come over here unexpectedly. It happened twice before, and both times I was home alone. Those first 2 times he was only there for 10 minutes, walking around the outside of the house and then quickly leaving. But this time was different. I grabbed a big kitchen knife and hid under the kitchen table. I heard him pull up outside and open our front gate. My dog outside was going crazy and barking. I heard him yell, "Shut up, Matt." I could hear his footsteps walking up to the door. He tried to open the front door. I was freaking out. At this point, I texted my dad. He was home. He was coming straight home, but they'd be like an hour. He continued to walk around the outside of our house, trying to peek into each window. The house is old and has 3 doors you can enter from the outside. He tried to open all 3. I thought maybe he didn't know I was home. Maybe the last 2 times were a coincidence. But he started saying things, including calling out my name. He knew I was home, alone. I couldn't hear what else he was saying through the double brick walls, but I quietly creeped through the house, following his voice up and down the hallway. I was trying to hear what he was saying. That's when he said something I'll never forget. "I'm going to burn the house down, but I'll let you out first." Of course, I didn't take him seriously, which scares me even more. He wanted me to come out. He wanted me to take his threat seriously. That's the part that gets me. I know exactly what would have happened if I had believed him, and my life would have been completely different. He was there for at least 30 minutes, maybe close to an hour. He was persistent. He left before my dad came home. I told him everything and we moved out soon after. I still don't know how he knew I was home alone. My dad never saw him on the way driving out, so he knew my dad was gone because there was no car in the driveway. But how did he know I wasn't with him? That's why creep landlord will never meet again. Edit, I'm just realizing now we were evicted. We didn't leave. We lived in a caravan at my uncle's house for a year before finding a house in a different town. I'd spent about 2 weeks traveling Germany for the Euros, and considering how many fellow Scotland fans were over for the games, I never felt completely alone, despite being a solo traveler in a foreign country. I guess I became too naive in how I trusted the older groups of Scots who would buy me drinks and chat with me all night about where they're from, who they knew. Just typical Scottish chats. I let my guard down. The last night in Stuttgart happened like most other nights in Germany. I'd be by myself and would get noticed by a group of older men or women who would inquire as to who I was with. When I heard I was alone, they'd remark at how brave I was as a good-looking lassie, being here all by myself. I'd then be integrated in the group, drink with them, celebrate with them, and that night cry with them after Scotland lost. Determined to enjoy my last night, I said goodbye to my new friends and donned on a short white dress draped in my Scotland flag, and went out looking for a good place to drink and dance with strangers I'd never meet again. I met a few people that night, but it was while I was alone that I met him. That bag's bigger than you are," I heard as a jolly old man wandered over to me. It was true. I had my rucksack with me that night. "Where's your boyfriend to carry it for you?" Not sure yet, still deciding if he's going to be German or Scottish. I quipped back with a smile. Most of my interaction would start this way, with a friendly interaction resulting in an offer to come drink with their group, and after offering to take me to a nearby Irish pub to drink with him and his family, I graciously accepted, and we began walking. He was overly exaggerating how incredible he thought I was for doing this alone, bowing to me and excitedly telling passers-by how I was myself and how brave it was. I would smile awkwardly and change the subject. I wish I could say alarm bells were ringing, but they weren't. After all, he was just a wee Scottish grandpa, one of many I'd met that night. He began prodding me on if I had somewhere to sleep tonight, remarking how they had a room in the hotel if need be. I wouldn't force myself on you or anything. I froze. It was so unexpected. I truly looked at him for the first time since I had met him. He was a relatively short man, taller than me, with a larger build and wrinkles to match the white hair that was poking out from under his Scotland cap. He began quickly explaining how he knows I'd be cautious about that sort of thing, being a smart girl, that I could trust him, but again reiterated that he wouldn't force himself on me. I laughed nervously as all the beer I drank earlier seemed to drain from my body, and I began taking in my surroundings. Where did you say your family were again? Just in an Irish pub this hill. So, like I was saying, I didn't really pay attention to him. We were still on the populated main street of Stuttgart, but the numbers were dwindling the further we went. My ears pinged an alert to my brain, signaling I had just missed something important or horrifying, so I mustered up a smile and politely asked, "What did you say?" "That I'm vegetarian, because I killed my 44th man in a vegetable field." "Oh, I've been deployed in loads of countries. The first 6 lives I took were in Ireland." My blood ran cold. I am a descendant of Irish immigrants who fled to Scotland to escape the brutality of the Troubles in Ireland. Did this man kill my family? Killed 12 in Iraq. I could only listen to parts of his ramblings as I began desperately planning my escape, locking eyes with every person that walked past. There weren't many. We had almost reached the top of the main street now. "Why are you so tense all of a sudden?" The words brought me back to the conversation. "You know I can read you like a book. I'm doing all this for you, see? I want to protect you. And Molly, I can guarantee you right now, you don't realize how much danger you are in." I felt a gentle tap on my shoulder, spinning round to see a young German man smiling at me. "Scotland," he mentioned to my flag. "I love Scotland. Is there anywhere to eat around here?" I blurted out, staring at him, praying I'd turn around and the old man would be gone. Brief confusion crossed the German's face before the old man began rapidly jumbling up the sentence. Sprechen seduced, in an attempt to sound as if he was speaking German. "Essen," I whispered. The young man pointed in the direction we just walked from. "There's a McDonald's down there." I turned back to the old man, whose look I could only describe as emotionless, as if he was staring through me like I was no longer there. I felt another cold shiver before smiling. "I'm gonna go grab something to eat, but I'll meet you in the Irish pub later." As if snapping back to his jolly self, the man quipped, "Now don't be like that. I'm off to a rave just now. I'm playing at it. You don't want to miss it." "I'll catch it later," I smiled. The man's face again dropped into a blank stare before he turned and walked off. I think the German man called after me, but I didn't hear him. I kept my head down and walked wherever my feet wanted to take me. I couldn't think, only walk. I don't know how I got to the train station, nor how I got to the hostel. There were no Irish pubs in Stuttgart, or at least not in that direction. To all solo female travelers, never say you are traveling alone. To the German man, thank you. And to the Scottish man, let's not meet again. Anyway guys, those were the stories, and they were really spooky. They were pretty spooky, and especially the second story. There's some vibes around that story that, conjures some nostalgic memories that I once had when I was, young and experienced such stuff. I did experience something similar to story 2. But anyway, that's the video, and that's the stories I just wanted to say, and it's a really great stories. For those who are curious as to if I'm gonna be releasing another video, I'll be releasing soon, really soon, and it will be a better one. And I just want to say thanks to everyone who watches the video, and if you really found that video interesting, or the stories in short, you can literally just like, and tell me what you think about the stories, if they were scary, if they were not that great, and also if my narration was somehow off. I'd be really happy, and I'd really appreciate it. Thanks guys, take care everyone, and peace out.